Hi everyone, it's Raina. So I just did a video about the astrological information that I had available regarding Melissa Gilbert, and I brought up Valerie Bertinelli because they both have the Sun in Taurus and the Moon in Aries, or I think Melissa does. I didn't have Melissa's time of birth, so um, Melissa might have the Moon in Pisces, perhaps, but Valerie does have all her information here. I went to Astro Theme, and then I plugged it into astro.com to get the type of chart that I like to look at. And so I thought I would do it because I was just kind of curious myself. And lately, Valerie has been in the news because her ex husband, Eddie Van Halen, passed away, which was very sad. And I was a child of the 70s. So if you notice certain people that I do charts for, it's usually people that I'm more familiar with. So it'd be very hard for me to do a chart of some of the stars of today because I really don't know them. And I like to know something about the people that I have some kind of already experience with them where I can make observations based on what I see. So Valerie Bertinelli was on One Day at a Time, and that show lasted from the mid 70s until the early 80s. So it was on for, I think, at least 8 years, maybe 9 years. I think it might have been 9 years. And so I think she was about 14 or 15 when she got the part. So she was in her early 20s when she left. So she grew up, at least spent her adolescence in front of the camera. And maybe I'll do one on Mackenzie Phillips too, because it's very interesting. Mackenzie Phillips was born in November of 1959. She's a Scorpio. And Valerie was born in April of 1960. So really, they were only 6 months apart. But a lot of people got the feeling that Mackenzie might have been a couple of years older than Valerie because she had this aura of, I don't know, being wise to the ways of the world. And that was because of Mackenzie's background. So Valerie had a more of an innocent, image, you could say. So color me shocked when I just plugged in this information and found out that she has Scorpio rising, Valerie, because that is a real shocker to me. That does not go along with what I typically think of when I think of Scorpio rising individuals, because the rising sign can be what people see first and foremost from you. And with Scorpio rising, there can be almost like this intensity, this mysterious quality, and I don't get that from Valerie. So it's very possible because she has a lot of Aries, and Aries is such a dominating force, that has taken over her personality, you could say, and it colors it to that degree because your personal planets or points, the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and the rising sign. She has the sun in Taurus, moon in Aries, Mercury in Aries, Venus in Aries, and Mars in Pisces. And Pisces is a chameleon and it can take on whatever is around it. So perhaps that rising sign of Scorpio is an outlier, or it is an outlier, and maybe it's overshadowed by the Aries energy. Even her sun in Taurus is at 3 degrees, so it's close to Aries as well. So, Valerie Bertinelli was born in Delaware, but she moved with her family to California. I don't remember how old she was. I read her autobiography, and that was an eye opener as well because I saw that she wasn't quite as she seemed. So maybe that's part of that secretive quality of Scorpio rising that can make somebody a lot more complex than perhaps, there's more than meets the eye. and they keep themselves in reserve. They kind of show what they want to show. So she got involved in acting. Of course, she's a beautiful woman. She was a beautiful girl, cute, and all of that. And I just did Melissa, and I was talking about these qualities. When somebody is a Taurus, or you could even say an Aries, and she has this combination of Sun in Taurus and Moon in Aries, Mercury in Aries, there's a spontaneity with Aries. And with Taurus, it's more of the down-to-earth quality that makes that person so accessible, like I was talking about earlier. And it makes, well, actually, I think since I've done both of these videos, doing both of these videos, I don't remember which one I mentioned which thing. So I'm going to just say it again, is that somebody with the combination of Sun in Taurus and Moon in Aries may seem very down-to-earth and spontaneous. And both Valerie Bertinelli and Melissa Gilbert have this combination. Again, we don't know 100% if Melissa Gilbert has the Moon in Aries or Pisces. But just that kind of sense that you can identify with such a person. When somebody is a diva, it's hard to really feel like you identify with them. You might look up to them, or you might admire them, but you don't necessarily feel that they're just like you. And Valerie Bertinelli is certainly one of those people that you just feel comfortable around, even if you're not around them physically. And, come to think of it, Kelly Clarkson, I think, is a Taurus, and she has that same quality. And she, I guess, got some kind of a talk show, and so did Valerie Bertinelli. This is just something I find out about when I read online, because I haven't watched television in over 11 years, so I'm not familiar with what's going on myself. But so looking at Valerie's chart, one of the things that I was most curious about is her relationship with Eddie Van Halen, because he was so different than she was. And they always would say that, even though they look like twins, male and female versions of each other. But Eddie Van Halen was an Aquarius, and Taurus and Aquarius can be physically attracted to one another. They form a square, but it can be an irritating aspect because there are so many differences within the makeup of both of these types of people. So it's one of those things where opposites attract, but do they stay together? And of course, that's not what happened here. And it's not to keep bringing up Melissa Gilbert, but I think Melissa Gilbert was long-suffering as well in love, and Valerie certainly was. She didn't want to give up because, she was a Taurus, or she is a Taurus, Valerie, and obviously Taurians are very tenacious, and she has Scorpio rising. So that is another fixed sign that can make the person very, tenacious, unrelenting. Could be another way of looking at it, but loyal and loving. Actually, Valerie has a conjunction between the Moon and Venus, so her love nature can be very open and loving, and that can be great. Apparently, she has found love with her second husband. And this, I think can be what happens is a positive fate for such people, that even if they don't find love earlier on in life, that they eventually do. Actually, Valerie married quite young. I can't remember if she was like 20 or 21. But it was not that it was scandalous, but it was a little bit awkward because she was still playing this other character. She was playing this character on television where she was supposed to be a teenager, a young adult, and this virtuous character, and she was a grown woman. And so it's just very interesting to see, like, why did she get married at that point? Like, what drew her to him? I would have to look at his information too, and that's not what this is about. But just in a more superficial way, I looked at her fifth house, and she has a stellium there. She has 3 personal planets in the fifth house, which can be about love. She has that conjunction between the moon and Venus, which makes that person romantic. This is House of Love, so it's very romantic. And Mercury here as well. So that just may be something that she was geared for. Is wanting to be part of a partnership with somebody from the get-go, as soon as possible. And I actually think that I don't know how long they were dating before they got married. They might have, married very quickly too. I'm not quite sure. Now, other observations that I can make are that one thing that she said in her book, in her autobiography, is that even though Mackenzie Phillips was getting all this bad press about being, a druggie or what have you at the time, that she was doing her thing and she was partying too. Now, maybe she was able to hide it better, and maybe she wasn't as out of control as Mackenzie was. But I found that very interesting, and I think a lot of people were probably surprised to learn that she was doing something like that, because we thought that she was just squeaky clean. Again, is that Scorpio rising? Is that the kind of like that you can keep yourself a mystery to others while, conveying a certain image, portraying a certain image? So that was kind of an interesting thing. So she has Mars in Pisces, and people who have this have to watch out for addictive tendencies in general, because Mars is your drive, and it's actually her ruler, along with Pluto, which is in her 10th house of career, the 2 rulers of Scorpio. And so a person with Mars and Pisces should definitely be very vigilant about their use of intoxicants. And we also look to Neptune, because that's the ruler of Pisces, to see about like how the person deals with reality. And she has, just like Melissa Gilbert, she has an opposition between the Sun and Neptune. Oppositions can be about relationships, and that can, for the kind of relationship that she had, which early on there were rumors that it was not working out. She did not wish to see things that way. It's funny because I just had, the other day, I clicked on this interview with her, and they were even saying back then, oh, there's rumors that your marriage is falling apart and blah, blah, blah. And she was like saying, I just have no idea what, she was just totally denying it. And that is the kind of thing when the Sun is opposing Neptune, the person may not know who they are, because the Sun is your sense of self. And they're looking, the projection, the opposition is looking to kind of find that person to reflect back on them who they are. So the relationships become so important, these one-on-one relationships, like a marital partner, become very pivotal in that person, either defining themselves or realizing that they cannot do so, which is kind of where it ends up when the marriage doesn't work out. And her Sun is in the 6th house, and so Neptune is in its own 12th house. Really, what I think about Valerie is that she probably found herself through her work, and that's how she identifies herself. Now, it's not having the Sun in the 10th house, which is the placement of fame. That doesn't mean that If you don't have the sun in the 10th house, you're not famous. Valerie is famous. But in terms of being a celebrity in that, in the classic sense of the word, Donald Trump has the sun in the 10th house. And you will hear Donald Trump talk about success, who's a winner, who's a loser, because the image becomes very important to people like this. With Valerie, that's the glory, the 10th house, the career, the glory, the acclaim, the reputation in the world. The 6th house is Virgo's house in the universal chart. So it's all about rolling up your sleeves, getting down to work. And when someone has their sun here, whether it's Valerie or whether it's you or somebody that you know, chances are they're very hooked into or identified with being a productive member of society. They want to serve, but they want to feel that they are of service, of use to others. Virgo wants to be of use, and so they have a Virgo quality, even, despite whatever their sun sign is. They're going to have that sub-influence of Virgo. So chances are they're going to be either workaholics or at least some sort of very a person with a good work ethic type of person, and they really their self-esteem is enhanced by working. Now, if you think about somebody like Valerie Bertinelli, she was on that show for 9 years. Did she have to go and do TV movies? Could she have lived on her earnings? I think she probably could have. She probably had investments and all that stuff. So why did she do that? Why didn't she just go and hang out on a yacht? She was with what's his name? Edward Van Halen. So why didn't she just play the role of the wifey? And actually, now that I'm saying this, I remember her. I think that was one of the reasons why they clashed, is because I think he wanted her to be at home and she wanted to work. And I think she tried to accommodate him, and it just wasn't. She realized that wasn't going to do it, because they had a lot of obvious incompatibilities between them. So the point being that, she found herself through her work. And the other thing, too, is that in the 12th house, she has Neptune, which is very compassionate. So this is somebody who is not going to give up when it comes to relationships and marriage and things like that. They're going to be very, very aware of the foibles of people, the weaknesses, and they don't judge people for them. And having Mars in Pisces, that kind of only enhances that tendency. So looking here, she also has some trines to Uranus, and that can also indicate having that kind of, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, which was Eddie's sign. So she might have a lot of, I don't want to say sympathy, but affinity for freedom within the emotional relationship. But because she has the moon in Aries and all these, and Mercury and Venus in Aries, there's that, that's very compatible with Aquarius, and also with Venus in Aries. People with Venus in Aries may actually mistakenly believe that conflict within a relationship is a good thing. And I'm of the belief, having been in a long-term relationship myself, that while I don't think that it is abnormal to argue, to not always agree with your partner, and that you might have some fiery, experiences with your partner, there still is the sense of you want to have a harmonious relationship. And this is where it gets tricky because she has the moon in Aries as well. And if you hear Valerie talking, a lot of times she's kind of yelling, and that's that fire, you know. And even though Scorpio, I think of as kind of cool, or at least appearing cool, maybe seething under the surface, one of Scorpio's rulers is Mars. And so that is a very fierce kind of an influence, and that can lead to the person being quite aggressive. And maybe, I think with somebody, when somebody has a lot of Aries, they feel like kind of that conflict is a spice of their relationship. And I think that is very problematic, and that's a mistaken belief. I understand it, but I don't agree with it. I don't think that that's true. And I think that can trip up these people and make them stay in relationships that aren't working for them. The other thing that needs to be said, I didn't say this about Melissa Gilbert, and it's probably true about her as well, is that we have to talk about sex. We have to talk about sex when we're talking about a Taurus person. That's another thing, and this may be why they have the stable love that they're looking for later in life, because they were too attached to the sexual relationship. Now, for Taurians, they may be very lusty, but they are also very interested in a stable setup. So they might have sex 3 times a day or 5 times a day, but they still may want to put a ring on it and that kind of thing. And so that can lead to getting married to somebody that you're very attracted to, and when married, you could say move in together. Somebody you're very attracted to, but not necessarily somebody that you are compatible with. And when you're not compatible with somebody that you're sexually attracted to, or you have great sex, that can create some very stormy scenes. But then, if you have all these planets in Aries, you might think, hey, this is part of the spice of life. Now, I don't know if if Valerie just really had that strong physical attraction to Eddie. I would imagine that was the case. And like I said, because they're both fixed signs, they may have that kind of physical attraction, but there may also be an irritation, things where there's like obstacles where they just can't see eye to eye. And it could be their lifestyles. I'm sure Valerie, I think she said something like she used to have to stay up until the middle of the night because that was the rock star lifestyle. But then she had to get up, to be on the set at like 6 o'clock in the morning or something. So it wasn't compatible with the type of work schedule that she had. And that, what do you do if you neglect your own thing for somebody else? That's codependency. So she was the queen of the made-for-TV movies. I think she holds the title, or at least she did at one time. Now, in her 10th house of career, we see Pluto and the North Node. The North Node meaning the soul's mission. So that may just be something deeply embedded in the person where they feel like they're meant to do something. And if it's in the 10th house, it doesn't mean that you have to do it for a living or that you have to do it to make money, or even to make any kind of money from it, even if it's a side job. But the North Node can simply be this sense of feeling like you came here to do a certain thing. But when it's in the career sector, then it might dovetail with what the career is. And actually, her midheaven, which is the cusp of the 10th house of career, is in Leo, albeit at 29 degrees of Leo. But that's the critical degree. So we give that a special emphasis of being very much, if you will, crystallizing the influence of what Leo represents in this career sector. So the idea of entertaining others, of creative self-expression. Pluto is here and in conjunction with the midheaven. So this indicates a very, very ambitious person, somebody who is ruthlessly ambitious, trying to be in the limelight, trying to maybe stay relevant if she's been on a TV show for so many years, and that tends to typecast the person. And if you are a Valerie Bertinelli fan, you know that she didn't really make it in the movies, and she tried. I remember there was a movie called Chomps, and you can look that up. I think that was something that probably many a joke was made out of. But maybe it was a cute movie, who knows? But it was something that didn't quite do it, you know what I mean? And I don't know if she was ever in any other feature films. She might have been, but she was known for TV. Nowadays, it looks like TV is more of the medium that is coveted than the big screen. Maybe it's just because of our changing habits. So none of these things is set in stone of what is, the is considered the top of the line or what have you. So the bottom line is that I feel as though she's very ambitious, and she certainly made a lot of made for TV movies as an adult, and this would indicate it. And she's still in the public eye. She hasn't really ever gone out of the public eye, come to think of it. And so in the fourth house of home and family, she has Chiron and Mars. I don't know, what Chiron in the fourth really means for her specifically. I think she had a good relationship with her mother, and she certainly had a childhood. I mean, she didn't seem like she had any major traumas that I can recall. So that may be one of those things. Maybe it's a past life thing. She only had one child, and I don't know if she had trouble with childbirth. That might have been why she only had one child. Sometimes Chiron in the fourth or even the fifth house might indicate that a woman can't conceive children, or maybe if it's a man, that they don't have children and they always wanted children. But she does have a biological child, so she did have that. So, sometimes these things may not be known to us because they're private matters. The fourth house is a water house. It's Cancer's house. So it may be something that only she knows what that means specifically. In her second house of earned income, she has both Jupiter and Saturn. And, I mentioned Trump having the sun in the 10th house. Trump has Jupiter in the second house. I do too. I'm waiting for my billions of dollars. But she also has Saturn, and these two planets, as I record this in November of 2020, these two planets are both transiting through the sign of Capricorn, and they will both be going into Aquarius in December of 2020, and they are so different in what they represent. So when you have both Jupiter and Saturn in the second house, you may have the ability to attract money to you, but you have a good head on your shoulders when it comes to money, and you may be very wise about investments and things of that nature. So that can indicate that kind of personality. So anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there. I just wanted to kind of touch base on that. What I wanted to say about, her being attracted to Eddie Van Halen is that with the Aries energy being and I don't know what degree of Aquarius he's in, but being harmonious with Aquarius, there's kind of that real feisty side that maybe even likes. That's one of the things that people said it was an odd couple, is that she seemed so sweet and he seemed like so, this hard rocking type of guy. What do they see in each other? Well, when we look deeper, we can see that she has this tendency. Being an Aries fire sign, I have a sun in Sag, fire sign. And when I was a teenager, I was just thinking about this, how I used to love hard rock. Billy Squier, AC/DC, all this stuff. And I laugh, Ozzy Osbourne. And it was like getting out this aggression, And so she has this part of herself. But ultimately, you look at the sun and the rising signs. What are they? And at the end of the day, the sun is in Taurus, rising sign Scorpio. So she has, I think that ultimately we can state that she's a more traditional person, but she is the kind of person who wants to have a career, hence that presence of the North Node and Pluto in the 10th house. If a man tried to stop her from that, it probably, she would not concede, even though she would do so in other areas, because she just feels like she came here to be that career woman. Okay, so thank you for listening. If you'd like a personal chart analysis or any other type of reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.